Many of you have asked me to speak more about my artistic career, so I thought that this time I would talk to you about my drawings. So my dealer, my art gallery dealer, had decided that she wanted to have a show of some of the best artist drawings in the nation. And this was a big deal because nobody was doing it at this time. Drawings are it comes off as more intellectual. And so dealers didn't really feature drawings as much as paintings. Well, I heard about this show going to be presented, and I thought, ooh, I want to be in it because this is going to be a big deal. And sure enough, she didn't call me. I was at the gallery, and she walked up and said, "Sandy, do you draw?" And I said, "Of course I do." I really hadn't been doing drawings since UCLA. I told you that story about UCLA. Remember, this was when I was going to UCLA. I was in the art department, and I had to take a drawing class. But I said, no, I didn't want to draw. I wanted to paint. And my teacher at that time was a very cool dude, and his name was Robert Irwin. And in fact, he designed the gardens at the Getty Museum. So Robert Irwin, I went up to him and said, "I don't want to draw, I want to paint." And he didn't like that idea. He said, "You've got to learn to draw." And I said, "But I can draw." He said, "Show me." So what I did is I went over to the side, I put my hand down, and I started drawing my hand. Now, I don't know if you know this, but drawing hands it's really tricky. It's hard to do. It's not an easy thing to do. But I sat there and I was drawing my hand, and then I showed it to him. And he looked at it and he said, "It's not bad." But then there was a friend, another artist, who looked at it and said, "Wait a second. She's drawn 6 fingers." Well, with that, he said, if you can draw 6 fingers and me not notice it and think that it's pretty good, you can do whatever you want. So after that, I really didn't spend time drawing. And I didn't see, what shall I say, the beauty of it. Because I didn't really do it. I'll tell you more about that. So years had gone by, and here's my dealer saying, "Sandy, can you draw?" And I said, "Sure." Well, what I did was I went home and started drawing. And I fell madly in love with drawing. Now, what did I love? I started off with a tiny drawing of 1 rose. And what I did was I had a large piece of paper, really large, and I loved the way it felt. I would go to the art store, and I'd feel the papers and see how I wanted to feel the pencil and how it felt against the paper. So I bought a really large piece of paper, and I chose just a tiny part of it, and I didn't paint, it shows you. I drew 1 rose. Now, drawing 1 rose, I fell madly in love, because when you're drawing, you're really concentrating on the black and the white, and you're focusing just on the gray areas. And that's what, if you ever hear people talk about chiaroscuro, that's what drawing is. It's the black and the white, and how the white works with the gray. I loved working with the pencils, the graphite. Do you know what graphite is? Graphite is like ground up pencil dust. And I would take a stump, and I would even draw with the stump on this wonderful, well, you can see, I can almost feel the paper that I used. I loved it. And so I did 1 drawing, and I looked at it, and I thought, I really love this. What I've got here is I've got this book, And this book is all of my slides of all of my drawings. And in the old days, in the days of yore, we used to, you know that they don't have slides anymore. We used to make slides and have slides that we'd present to our dealer so that the dealer could show it to people who wanted to buy our drawings, and send them out to other dealers. So you can see that, you know, the slides were labeled. As a matter of fact, I'd started working, you'll get a kick out of this. Those were the early days of computers. And I didn't like my printing. I thought my printing was kind of dorky, and I didn't like the way it looked on slides. So I called up a company that I'd read was making a slide program, and I said, I need it right away. And he said, well, do you want to be a beta tester? And I had no idea. It sounded like a bomb tester. I didn't know what it was. And I said, sure. I had no idea what it was. But I became a beta tester for this slide program. In fact, I was such a good beta tester, they dedicated the program's manual to me. Anyway, this was one, so I drew one rose. I loved the experience. This was the drawing. I did one rose, then I did two roses. I went to the Huntington Gardens, and they have phenomenal roses there. And it just happened to be that time of year, and took lots of slides, just an enormous amount of slides, because they had fabulous roses there. So the image of this is 4 by 7 1/8 inches, so you know that it's really tiny. But I would put the paper on the drawing board, and I'd get my pencils and I'd get my erasers, and I'd just softly draw on the paper. And it was such a, how would you say, it was just such an immediate, intimate experience with the paper, the pencils, the graphite, even the erasers were wonderful, that I loved it and wanted to do even more. So I kept on drawing. Now, while I was drawing, I was listening to opera. And there I was. I mean, can you imagine being in your studio with your drawing board, with your pencils, beautiful paper, wonderful pencils, and listening to opera. I used to love listening to Mozart. Who was the other one? Oh my goodness. I can't think of him right now. I'll let you know in a minute. Anyway, so that's what I would do, and just get so involved and drawing. Now this, I'm going to show you, I have this one still, because I wouldn't sell it. And this one is called 5 Roses, and it's 5.5 by 8 6/8. And again, it's on paper. I adore this drawing. Is it my favorite? I don't know, but I love the way the white and the gray bond together and create a very sensuous surface. So I've got a print of this one, and this is called Iceberg roses. And so this was part of the show also, and in fact this was purchased by UCLA for their collection, which I'm very proud of, because I remember David Rhodes, he used some fabulous word, but he felt like my drawings stood for so much more than what you saw, that they represented much more than what they saw. I can't remember the word, but it was a really good word, and it was a word that I'd never heard before, and I had to look up. And of course now, 10 years later, 20 years later, who can remember? But I'm very proud that this is part of the UCLA drawing collection. So I was in that show, and very honored to be in the show. The show got fabulous reviews. Everybody loved the idea of having a drawing show, and I continued drawing. One of the things about the way I paint and draw is that I paint and draw in series. So when you look at the paintings that I did and the pattern paintings, I did a number of those, and they were all part of my pattern series. As a matter of fact, if you'd like to look at my drawings and paintings, please go to sandrasalin.com, www.sandrasalin.com, and you can look at my artwork. I don't think I have absolutely everything up there, but pretty much so. So the drawings, I loved doing drawings. And in fact, I loved it so much. I loved it so much that I started looking at things in black and white. And I was looking out the window, and it was nighttime. And I looked out the window, and suddenly I saw everything in black and white. And I was kind of stunned. But I realized that I'd spent so much time looking at drawings and everything in black and white that suddenly that's all I saw. So I wanted to do more drawings, larger drawings, but not only did it lead me to black and white drawings. Oh, I love this one. Let me show you this. This was, do you know what an amaryllis looks like? I love this. So this one was larger. So this was 30 by 24. So this was a much larger drawing. But again, I would take, it's funny the way you draw. I know I'm going off in a different direction, but the graphite gets everything dirty. So you have to put paper over the area that you're not drawing on, and you have to keep your hands really clean. So that, I was always washing my hands. I always had glassine underneath my hand. And glassine is like fancy wax paper. That's what I would put over my paintings because it doesn't stick to anything. So I'd use glassine under my hand. I'd block off the drawing with paper so that I wouldn't get on the paper. Let's see, where was I? Oh, I know. So what happened was I fell madly in love with black and white. And that was the next series. I did this drawing, and then what I did, I started painting in black and white. And you can see the painting here. And suddenly, what I decided to do, my next series, was a painting of black and white, usually of white flowers, and then I'd do a drawing of the painting. Or I'd do a painting of the drawing. But again, I was always working in black and white. And I loved it. I went through this whole series of black and white, and that's probably what I'll talk about next. All I can tell you was that I fell madly in love with drawings. And what you need to know if you're not an artist is the connection that you get with the work you're doing, so that I'm listening to opera, I'm in love with what I'm doing. I love the medium, meaning I love the idea of working with graphite. I love the idea of these pencils. I love sharpening the pencils. They were mechanical pencils, and I had the best time sharpening. I had the best time working with graphite. I enjoyed the experience, and I think that's what shows up in what I did. It wasn't just the physical, it was also the emotional, that I think that my love transcended just the idea of paper and pencil, but the love and the emotion that I put into what I was doing came out in what I was doing. And as I say, maybe the next time I'll talk about my black and white paintings and my black and white drawings. It was I want to say, a delicious series, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So again, see, I always forget. Please hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the, thumbs up, subscribe, and what else is there? I think that's it. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'll do more about my artwork, and because you seem to all enjoy it. So thank you very much.